So I want to thank Quant once again for all of his in-depth research. Let's jump into this. All right, so this is Digital Asset Summit 2024 that's going to be coming up. Crazy stuff, right? To think that we're only less than 2 months away from all this. Look what's shown here. If anything, I'll come out of the frame. Actually, I don't need to. I think you guys can see it. So the institutions are here, it says, in the last 30 days, and I want to point this out to you guys. Listen to this for a second. BlackRock and Barclays used JP Morgan's blockchain in a milestone collateral transaction. BlackRock CEO says he believes BTC and crypto, well, he doesn't say BTC, he says Bitcoin and crypto will play a role as a flight to quality. Major European clearinghouse, Euroclear issues first ever tokenized digital euro bond worth what? 106 million. JP Morgan reveals that its digital coin handles 1 billion worth of transactions daily. My God, we talked about that. Crypto market cap nears 1.5 trillion for the first time in nearly 2 years. True. CME Bitcoin futures open interest surpasses Bitcoin to claim the number one spot for the first time in 2 years. I mean, all this stuff is worth pointing out. UBS launches crypto ETF trading for wealthy Hong Kong clients. But look at this. And I'll get more into this a little bit later. Japanese banking giant Nomura launches an ETH fund. BlackRock files for spot Ethereum ETF. HSBC announces digital assets custody services to institutional investors. UK sets out proposals to bring stablecoins to the real economy. We covered all of this stuff. HSBC. We didn't cover the whole thing at Thailand. At least I don't think so. Fourth largest bank buys 103 million stake in crypto exchange. I think we covered that a while back. I think even Crypto Hulk was talking about that. Wisdom Tree. I used to do the whole thing of Wisdom Tree. Announces plans for more digital funds for blockchain-enabled app. Keep in mind, Franklin Templeton even has an ETF application as well. World Bank rolls out first digital bond issuance on Euroclear, and Standard Chartered to invest 100 million in crypto startups. That doesn't sound very big, especially from Digital Asset Summit 2024. Interesting, right? All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to do something that I always get criticized for, but I don't care. I'm going to do it again because, you know what? At least try to back it up. So once again, I don't even know what part this is. I don't know if this is part 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Who's keeping count? But let's talk about this whole thing of, for instance, QNT and Jasmy once again. And you may be thinking, why point this out? Because you got to point it out. So look what it says. Quant entered the commercial stablecoin. Now, for the longest time, I've been talking about this whole notion of Japanese yen-denominated stablecoins. I talked many months ago. I think it was back in March, something like that. Maybe April. I did a video, on the old channel, unfortunately. But it talked about Quant, Jasmy, XDC. And it mentioned specifically SBI Japan. And for a lot of us, we're talking about the whole thing of, is this a power play from Quant in regards to Japan? And my answer was, yes, I think it is a power play. Now, you got to keep in mind, a lot of these big time, blue chip companies like Quant and so on will do a power play, position themselves strategically for the future. Let's put up the branding for Jasmy for just a brief moment because it's good stuff. And look at this for a second. So it says, enter the commercial stablecoin. There's certain characteristics of stablecoin that make it more suitable for bank-to-bank use for financial institutions and enterprise customers. At Quant, we call these commercial stablecoins. These privately issued digital currencies backed by fiat or commodities will become an essential counterpart to CBDCs issued by regulated private companies, financial institutions, and banks. Many are, of course, already live. One consumer-facing example, Circle's USDC is now the 5th largest digital currency with a market value of $52 billion. Others include USDF Consortium, an initiative by 10 FDIC-insured U.S. banks to create a bank-minted stablecoin on a public blockchain. But look at the highlighted part. Another example is the DCJPY token, a yen-based digital currency pegged to bank deposits. Don't you love how we've been talking about this for 11 months, probably, give or take, about this whole concept and how Quant went to Japan and they basically set things up to be strategically aligned for the future. But what exactly is that? Well, boom, it's this. Look what it also says. Developed by a group of 70 Japanese companies and banks to speed large-scale fund transfers and intercompany, of course, settlements. Interesting. Wow. Why is that? Well, we're going to definitely jump more into this. So for one, gotta love my Control F because it does help. Let's take you to where? The Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF. What does it show there? Well, it shows quite a few things, actually. So for one, let's take you to it. I'm going to start off actually first with this. IBM, India, June 6, 2022. Thomas Harjano. Interesting. No, he's part of Quant. Look at this. Thank you, Thomas, for the latest draft on the SAT architecture and the work based on the previous ODAP drafts. We fully support the need for SAT within the Internet Engineering Task Force, IETF, at the next BOF session. We're solving the emerging need to interconnect, right? Thank you, of course, Thomas, for the draft, yada, yada, right? We are solving the emerging need to interconnect closed private networks as the industry is accelerating the digitalization and tokenization of assets to digital assets. The industry benefits across financial services, manufacturing, supply chains, and nervous providing the ability to trust and securely write trusted data to a shared ledger and move that asset securely between parties. These digital assets are usually located on private permission networks that are accessible only to internal participants and members of the network or, of course, the consortium. And recent examples, the emergence of private, look at this, guys, stable coins, which are regulated form of tokenized money, have a wider use case in financial services. Financial services. Japan. We're going to get into a little bit here in a bit. The challenge they face is that they are only accessible and transactable to participants and only on that particular network. Some examples are Japan's DCJPY, run by a consortium of 74 of Japan's biggest banks and firms that look to roll out the digital currency. So, guys, remember how I mentioned numerous times that these guys will go to these areas of the world, hence Japan, and they'll get things going to prepare for the future, not prepare for the right now or appease to the retail market. It gets a little bit better. Look at this. Creating a tokenized USD with member banks. Think about some of the member banks that we're just talking about, like, you know, some of the examples. Emirate Bank, Connect One, Permis Bank, have joined the founding members of New York Community Bank, Synovus, NBH Bank, First Bank, Webster Bank. Talks about CBDCs. Depending on the use case, these will most likely be financial infrastructure akin to national payments infrastructure, such as faster payments in the UK. These are closed networks for security. Availability requirements are only open to participants in the network. So when we state that through Quant, by making interoperability and also creating this whole thing of what they got going on with apparently the consortium of 74 of Japan's biggest banks to roll out digital currency, the whole notion that we covered for a while of Japanese yen denominated stablecoins having the pairing with, for instance, what Jasmy's trying to do to activate its utility and so on, is no longer a thing of a what if. It's more like just simply plug in when you're ready. Now, how does Jasmy prepare themselves to be ready? The answer is simple. Stop overthinking it. It's to scale up to the next particular solution that they have, this layer 2 that they're going with. Jasmy positions themselves to access this network, this consortium, 74 of Japan's biggest banks. That is absolute game changer. Big time. Now, getting a little bit more into what we have. Some people will ask, well, you got some more examples? Of course I have some more examples. So for one, if you're wondering about, some of the standards or, it's interoperable and something, look how many times you see ISO TC 307 being referenced here. Quite a bit. Standardizing blockchain even has a reference to the ISO.org site. You have ISO TC 307 right here. SBT Review Advisory Group. Who's the working group? Of course, it's ISO TC 307. Who's the liaison working group? Again, ISO TC 307. Can't make it up. Look at it for yourself. In fact, for some of the guys that want to nerd it out, here's the reference. I'm going to put it right in the comments for you. Boom, there's that. Look at this. Digital Currencies Working Group, ISO TC 307. Once again, guidance for auditing DLT systems. Ooh, nice. What did Quant recently come out with recently? They came out with what? The whole thing of that smart audit. So this was already put in place a while back. Another working group, ISO TC 307, representation of physical assets as non-fungible tokens. Interesting. Remember we talked about, what was it? QRC 721, how big in the future that's going to be. Well, what standard is that? ISO TC 307, once again. How about this? Interoperability of blockchain and distributed ledger technology systems. Working group, ISO TC 307. At every single turn, ISO TC 307. Look at this, guys. Security, privacy, and identity. Wouldn't that be right up Jasmy's alley? Wouldn't that be right up Japan's alley to have the working group be ISO TC 307? I think so. And there it is, referenced again. How about smart contracts? The newest thing that they're doing, right? Secure smart contracts. Who's the working group again? ISO TC 307. Who is that? The Quant Network Standard. Gilbert Verdian wrote it. Governance working group, ISO TC 307. I mean, come on, you guys. This is amazing. It's so cool to see this. Okay? All right. I'm going to jump into a little bit more about this. So a while back, I was talking about Mr. Taro Kono. And I said to you guys, Japan is leading the charge. Let me double check the settings real quick because I want to make sure you see it. Yep, you see it. I said Japan is leading the charge for that regulatory framework. That framework was then shared. And I said Taro Kono is going to take this to Europe. Why would he want to do that? Because Japan has already embraced crypto. They already get it. They felt as though that their template, if you will, is going to get the job done not only for Japan, but other places in the world, like Europe. Well, guess what? Was I making that up? No, it wasn't. Look at this for a second. Cybersec for Europe D8, Cybersecurity Standardization Engagement Plan. Ooh, we're doing it again. Technical Committee, Subcommittee, Committee Study Group, Title II Committee, Identification Number and Title of Standard, Partners involved. Look at the top right area of the screen. Cybersecurity for Europe. Introducing it to Europe. And look what's mentioned here. ISO TC 307, not once, not twice, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. 6 times. Interesting. What does it state? Foundations, security, privacy, and freaking identity. It's no longer speculative anymore. Yeah, some people that are like the naysayers who just want things just to be written out in one sentence. I want to see Jasmy Quant. Boom, same sentence. You might not ever see that. If you take more of your deeper dive and look more into it for yourself, you'll come across the research which shows this, because it has to do with standards, security and privacy and identity, smart contracts and their application. So right there, we have ISO TC 307 on both of those categories. Okay, what's Jasmy looking to do? They're looking to scale up with this layer 2 solution. They're looking to also use standards for what? Their Web3 cloud solution. What about governance? Well, what about it? Also there, ISO TC 307. Use cases, boom, ISO TC 307. Interoperability of blockchain and distributed ledger technology systems. Boom, once again, ISO TC 307. Interesting. Take you to the next part. Here's a little bit more from the cybersecurity of Europe. So you have cybersecurity standardization engagement plan, an engagement plan. Oh, Taro Kono also had an engagement plan, did he not? With Margaret Vestager, right? To get standards across Europe, all over Europe. Then he took it to what, guys? He took it to Estonia, some other crazy countries, right? I'm not going to call them crazy, but you know what I mean. Countries I've never been to. Look what it says. The International Electrotechnical Commission, SC27, aims at developing standards for the protection of information. Information, for crying out loud. Includes updates, standards under development. But look at the juicy part. ISO TC 307 blockchain distributed ledger technologies, currently with 42 participating members and 12 observing members. There are 11 ISO standards under development. Includes, of course, updates. Let's jump into a little bit more of what we have. So there's this right here. It says, for instance, Norges Teknisk, if I'm pronouncing that right. Universities' participation in mainly the Senelec focus group on blockchain and DLT. This is a European Union-based focus group to conduct the preliminary investigations on blockchain DLT. Again, go back to the whole thing of what was reported earlier this year for when Taro Kono went to Europe and he met up with like Margaret Vestager and some of these other big players, if you will, introducing this framework. It was not a nothing burger. There was a reason for it. And the reason for it was to conduct the preliminary investigations on blockchain and DLT technology in the context of European deployments and, of course, standardization. The life of this group is limited to the end of the year, and the members have migrated. Look what it says, because this is the proof, because you guys want the proof. We all want the proof. This is proof. Have been migrated to ISO TC 307. So if they're migrated to that particular standardization, then you already have your answer. If you understand standards and how that works. It has been decided to follow the international standardization initiatives with ISO and on national levels, and if there is a need for a European committee, it will be established later. So when I say that Quant is literally in everything, here's another great example. And when I say, for instance, Jasmy is going to be able to have interoperability through these particular standards, right? The pairing of the stable coins, the Japanese yen denominated stable coins, you guys wanted some some clear, precise examples. Is there not enough evidence to support that thesis? I think there is. What about the current status of where we're at? Let's talk about that for a second. The current work was focused on a publication of official blockchain and DLT white paper that summarized the current state of the art as well as the standardization needs, risks, future directions, and current problems and solutions in the space. European Telecommunication Standards Institute. European Telecommunication Standards Institute, which is the ETSI, is a European standards organization. ETSI is recognized regional standards body dealing with telecommunications, broadcasting, and other electronic communications networks and services with more than 850 member organizations drawn from over 60 countries and 5 continents. And oh, by the way, did we forget about the whole thing of Quant and VocalLink? No, we did not. So when we talk about telecommunications, Quant is all over that. Once again, like a fat kid on cake. Talk a little bit more about ISO TC 307 for a brief moment. So there's a problem when it comes to international trade. And when it comes to international trade, we're always going to reference XDC. But I want to talk about this for a brief moment. It says that international trade, the problem is that such interoperability standards could help overcome the high costs associated with excessive computation. When blockchains aren't designed to easily communicate with one another from the beginning, this leads to higher computing costs. Very, very true. Especially accounting for the high complexity of global supply chains. Other regulatory concerns that have been raised include inconsistent national legal recognition of blockchain-based information and conflicts between supply chain agents' personal information, and certain data privacy regulations like GDPR. We talked about that, GDPR. International interoperability will help alleviate the inefficiencies of these patchwork arrangements. Challenges like these are beginning to be addressed by the International Organization for Standardization New Technical Committee on Standards for Blockchain and Distributed Ledger Technologies. And boom, there you go. Once again, ISO TC 307. And listen to this for a second, because we're always referencing not only G7, but G20. Most G20 member states are represented, of course, in this committee, totaling about 57 participating and observing members. Hence, through coordinated efforts, G20 members have the opportunity to work with ISO TC 307 to promote standards, discussions that will support the long-term goals of supply chain traceability through blockchain. So again, your key takeaway should be this part right here. Coordinated efforts, G20 members, opportunity to work with people that are literally from the ISO TC 307 standards to work together to bring blockchain together. So at some point or another, yeah, you better believe that even Jasmy will have to work with the Quant network because it's a freaking standard. They can't avoid it. There's a lot more to it than just that, obviously. Okay. Let's jump into the next part real quick. There's just a little bit more. It's good stuff, guys. I'm telling you flat out. I can't thank Quant Pop enough for all this. International, let's jump to this part, sorry. International Blockchain Standardization via International Organization for Standardization, ISO. This is from eStatus AG, enforcing information security. You can look up eStatus AG if you want. ISO TC 307, Blockchain Distributed Ledger Technologies. Look at the scope. Standardization of blockchain tech and distributed ledger technology started all the way back in 2016. Inception, I think, was 2015, but that standard was realized 2016 thanks to Gilbert Verdian. Secretariat standards, of course, in Australia. Right. No kidding. 41 participating members at that time. Look how it's grown. Look at the groups. SBP Review Advisory Group. You have a liaison. You have the convey. I can't pronounce that tonight. Excuse me. Joint ISO TC 307, blockchain distributed ledger technologies and IT security techniques. Talks about all the use cases, interoperability, foundation, security, and privacy. Again, everything we talked about earlier. Just kind of pounds it home just a little bit more. All right, now I want to share something with you guys. That was from a while back. This is from the Japanese Information Economy and Society Promotion Association. Because at some point, when you guys are going to say, what about the whole thing of, Society 5.0, Max? And I'll be right with you. So look at this for a second. Announcement of domestic deliberation organizations related to ISO TC 307, the Quant network standard, right? News release. Announcement of domestic deliberation organizations related to ISO TC 307. This is all the way back on October 7, 2016. Japan Information Economy and Society Promotion Association. Apparently, they already had this idea many years ago, but a lot of us didn't even know about it, right? Why didn't we know about it? Maybe because somebody just never shared it on Twitter or did a particular deep dive about it and so on, right? So here it is. The Japan Information Economy and Societal Promotion Association, which is called JIPDEC, a general incorporated foundation located in Minato-ku, Tokyo. Chairman is Tsutomu Makino, hereinafter referred to as JIPDEC, has received approval from the Japanese Industrial Standards Committee, which is called JISC, and will be implementing ISO from September 23rd, 2016. They have started their activities as a domestic deliberative body of the International Organization of Standardization. And which particular ISO standard? Boom, once again, the ISO TC307 Quant Network Gilbert Verdian freaking standard. I don't know what else to say, but I will elaborate on it a little bit more. The TC will carry out international standardization activities to support compatibility and data exchange between systems, applications, users of blockchain, electronic distributed ledgers. Japan participates in the TC, listen to this, guys, as a P member. What is that? Well, it says who actively participates in standardization activities. So I'm telling you flat out, guys, you hold QNT and you hold Jasmy. I mean, I'm honestly starting to think, like, when we talk about if you hold Ripple's XRP, you should hold Stellar. I'm telling you also, if you hold Jasmy, you should hold Quant, vice versa. It's all making sense. Are we not paying attention to this? Or are we just talking about pogo sticks and Caroline? It's okay if you are. Have a good time. I'm just giving you guys crap. Look at this. This is good stuff. I hope you guys appreciate the coverage tonight because it's big. I mean, you know what you have. You know why you hold it. But you want to know something? Who doesn't like the idea of getting more good news? So JIPDEC, the domestic deliberation body for ISO TC307, serves as the secretariat of the National Review Committee for the development of international standards in this field. But again, posted and shared in Japan. So Japan is part of that standard because they're what? They're an active member. And the rest of the world wasn't even probably aware of that. Are you now aware of that? Oh my gosh, that's huge. Look at this. They're among the technologies currently attracting the most attention in the IT industry. Yeah, no kidding. Maybe because of Internet of Things. Maybe because of sensors, you know, for data tracking. Maybe because of Society 5.0. Interesting. Expected to be applied to a variety of fields. The Domestic Review Committee carries out various activities for the development of international standards, such as compiling content of discussions by domestic experts, making proposals to the relevant TC, coordinating with participating countries of the relevant TC, and dispatching members to international conferences. What is something that we see going on is, I think this is already passed. Remember that conference? We call it the Super Bowl of IoT conferences. So my point is, behind the scenes, you better believe some of these guys are rubbing elbows with each other. I mean, you literally see it. It's no longer speculative anymore. Domestic Review Committee, comprised of experts from industry, academia. They plan to establish working groups depending on the content to be discussed at the relevant TC. They also plan to actively work on standards proposals from who? Japan. From Japan, in cooperation with the International Standardization Promotion Division of the Ministry of Economy. My God, trade in industry. This is why XDC went to Japan. I guess we could throw XDC into the mix. We will carry out activities to help Japan lead the world in this field. This standardization will encourage the development of blockchain, electronic, distributed ledger technologies, and aim to further promote distribution and utilization of information based on international agreement and cooperation. Oh my gosh, even this right here looks like the old Quant logo. Say what you want. I mean, have you seen the old Quant logo? If you haven't, go to one of my old thumbnails. Talks about Kana Labs and Quant. Anyway, I'm just throwing that out there. It's just a conceptual diagram. Talks about ISO TC307 numerous times. Let me see here. I know I get a little bit too excited sometimes, but I mean, there's a lot to be excited about here, in my opinion. Yeah, maybe not everybody feels the same way. Let's share this tab. ISO TC307, convenors, coordination group, joint ISO TC307, IEC, blockchain distributed ledger technology. We shared this one before. But look what it says on the bottom in regards to Japan. They have the Virtual Currency Governance Task Force. Interesting. So, guys, I'm probably going to wrap it up in regards to that. I'm going to get back into the comments. I just think it's awesome. I mean, it's so cool to actually see all this come into fruition. Your key takeaway should be that if anybody fudded you out of your Jasmy, especially, I don't know. I mean, I guess give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't know. But there's a lot of content creators. They're going around as we speak saying that Jasmy's going to go to zero. There's one guy that thinks Quant's like just a ERC20 token. You know who he is. I have nothing against the guy personally. I would never be the type of guy to attack the person, right? I'll attack the argument. If anything, I'll just bring more information.